Episode 118 of the Drive-By Podcast is sponsored by Playground Summer Million, the must-play poker event of the season, featuring 10 championship ring events, $1 million in guaranteed prize pools, and a $500,000 guaranteed main event. Located just over the Mercier Bridge and only minutes from downtown Montreal, it's Playground.
This is the Drive-By with Freeway Frank.
Angela Price is here, and we're already drinking wine. What's going on here? How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for being on the Drive-By.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I love the fact that, well, because I take it as a compliment, that you're in the middle of probably one of the biggest moves of your life, but you still found some time to come here on the podcast. That means a lot to me because I know we write back and forth together and we're on the same page for a lot of stuff that we might not necessarily discuss. And so it's nice that you committed and that you're here today.
I forgot to pick up my daughter from school yesterday, but I made it to the podcast on time.
Wait a minute. How do you forget to pick up your daughter from school?
Got the schedule mixed up. She used to have activities after school on Tuesday, and then I get the call being like, I'm here with Liv. Is someone coming to pick her up? I'm like, oh my gosh. It's her event now is on Wednesdays, not Tuesdays. And I mean, we're packing, work stuff is crazy. It's just
you're handling you're an entrepreneur. You have your own business. You're handling your career. You have 3 kids. You're the wife of needs no introduction, of course. Probably you're the first family of Quebec, right? First hockey family of Quebec. Of Carrie, of course. So this is a busy schedule that you have, but somehow you manage to handle it. I see your Instagrams through your social media all the time. You've got it all figured out. At least it seems. It's like controlled. It's like controlled demolition, right?
Yeah, it is though. That's definitely my personality. Always has been. I have to have multiple balls in the air. I am a busy bee, probably a bit of an ADD there, but that's just
perfectionist.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's just me in a nutshell.
So you're moving. A couple of months ago, you stunned everybody. It
shouldn't have been like a stun. I had been talking about it for almost a year, but that happens every so often. Something on my social media just clicks and people grab that and run with it. But everyone else, all my followers, been like, "You've been talking about this.
You've been kind of hinting about it, right?" So that's the thing, because I remember mentioning to some people, "No, actually, she hinted a few times."
Shocking.
But then what happens is, media having been somebody that worked in the mainstream media for 30 years, but not anymore, they pick it up and they turn it into this big thing, right? Because now it's like the Price family is leaving. They're leaving town and they're moving, and so it becomes dramatic. Of course, they turn everything into, it becomes like a soap opera.
Yeah.
Do you feel like sometimes you're living, for you it's real life, and you're as I said, you're a mom, you're a wife, entrepreneur, but does it feel sometimes that the cameras are always rolling? Like they are now, but they're always rolling when they're not supposed to be rolling.
Not really. I think me and Kara are both like this, that we're not listening to local news. We're not really watching any mainstream media or news in our house. And I since high school get in trouble because I'm so in my own lane. I don't know the drama going on around me. I don't know who's dating who's talking about what. I am so bad at that, actually, to a fault, that it's really easy just to live our lives, even in Montreal, when there seems to be a lot of people talking about you. Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's what people do. And especially, and I'm sure we'll get into it, in this province, it's a special place.
Yeah.
And it's special in a good way, and special sometimes in a negative way, where everything becomes rumor and conversation and chat. And you really have to remain, as the person sometimes at the center of it, focused on what the task at hand is, which is, as I said, you have family first. That's everything to you.
It has definitely been, I've had my challenges finding my place within that. Yeah. And then just accepting that within this lifestyle, that's kind of a burden that comes along with it. Yeah. And I have strangely went from it bugging me to now almost like it fuels my fire, and a sick part of me kind of likes it. Likes when people talk crap about me.
Yeah, me too. I feel well, you know what that is? That's maturity.
Yeah, maybe.
Because when we're younger, we don't understand it, right? And we're just getting used to it, and you're under the microscope.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to deal with it. Then you get older, and now you start effing around with it a bit.
Yeah,
you know?
like if my comment section is too nice, I'm like, oh, I got to mix things up a little bit.
You got to do something here. You're coming across way too nice. So a few months ago, you make this announcement that you're selling the family home in Candiac, which is a great area in the South Shore. We always see you on Instagram hanging with the neighbors. Carrie taking shots on his neighbor's kid and his Crocs, and we'll talk about that later. And so this is a big move for you guys. Personally, having done it myself 4 times, crossing the country and moving for my career, I understand the level of, it's just a massive move to move across the country, and especially for the kids. It's a different story when you're adding 3 kids to that mix. Yeah. And so where are we at in terms of, because I think the fans, the people that follow you, whether they're hockey fans or not, the people that are influenced by you, even though I hate the word influencer, but you are, right? You influence many people on your Instagram. So you're moving in a couple of weeks this month?
At the end of the month.
And what does that mean, Angela? Tell me something here, because they're going to say you didn't ask the question. So this means what now? So the house is on the market. Yep. You're moving. You built a beautiful home in Kelowna. Yep. Don't show up at the prices. They're nice people, but they don't want to see you. Okay, just leave them alone. And you're moving over there. And what does that mean in terms of, because the team hasn't made an announcement, but you did.
Right.
But before you made this announcement, did you speak to obviously your husband about it, and how did you go about that?
Well, it's always the plan is to get back to BC. All of our family's over there, as much as we have really loved our time in Montreal and its home, especially our little neighborhood. That was always the plan, and it got to the point where if Carrie is done playing, we want to make the move sooner than later because the kids are only getting older. The move's only going to get harder. So we did make the decision. He can continue his training and his rehab in Kelowna, and then we will often come back to Montreal. We have many plans to come back to Montreal. It's not like a goodbye forever, but the kids need to start their lives in Kelowna and kind of be grounded in one place, I think. And the sooner we did that and make that move, the best. It is really difficult for us as a whole family, especially the kids who don't necessarily understand why we have to leave their friends and why daddy's done playing hockey for right now, or why so-and-so's dad so-and-so's dad is playing at the games, but her dad's not. It's hard, and dealing with it in Montreal and making the announcement that we're moving kind of added another level to that. Like the other day I posted that we were packing, and a fan had responded saying how insensitive that was to me, that I'm just talking openly about us moving. And that's hard too, because I'm dealing with 5 really strong emotions about moving at home. I can't carry the whole city's emotions on my shoulders about that too. But Carrie and I did have a discussion about it. We did talk to the team about it beforehand. They appreciated the heads up before we put the house on the market, that we let them know. And I think we're doing it the right way. And like I said, me and Carrie both will be back in Montreal lots. He's gonna be here for training camp. I'm coming back during training camp as well for work. He's going to bring the girls out to see their friends. It's not a good. So he is
coming back for training camp. You're going to be back with your business, which I want to talk about coming up in a bit.
Yes,
because that's very interesting what you're doing with that. So it's not goodbye.
No, it's
people
not.
need to stop freaking out.
And I know it's big that we're selling our house, but it's just the kids. Like we have to. Yeah. We need something stable for the kids, and maybe me and Carrie get something downtown. For when we come into town, but the kids aren't going to be, like, we're not going to pull the kids out of school to be coming during the winter, but me and Carrie will be here. Yeah.
Obviously your kids, what of your eldest, I think is, would she be in grade 1?
She'll be going into grade 2.
Grade 2.
Yeah.
And then the other kids are
one starting kindergarten, and then our little man is preschool. So
it's actually a good time to make the move.
It was a good time to make the move, and all kid-based.
Yeah. And
that decision.
We were talking about it when we first sat down here on the couch right behind Angela right here. We were chatting, and I was like, you know what, we may as well start the podcast, because this is interesting. I don't know if the podcast will be as interesting as our behind the scenes, but we were talking about what it comes down to. And when people are asked, I know this might sound morbid, on their deathbed years in the future, in their 80s, in their 90s, some who live even longer, the first thing they say is how they should have spent less time worrying about work, less time worrying about their employer, more time focused on the family. And what I find with you guys that, you definitely got this right, many things right, is you focus on the family, and that's what it's all about. And as important as fans are, people that support you, loyalists, people who are on your side, everything you do at the end of the day is for your family. You're doing this is what people need to understand. They're doing this because this is what's best for you and Carrie and your family, not for what's best for Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, as Montrealers and people who are fans of this historic hockey team, we're like sad and we want to hear something. Frank, ask her something. Tell her,
We're sad too,
Of course
though.
you're sad.
We are very sad.
You're sad. You must be, because it's a big move. And okay, so how many you moved? So you got married 10 years ago?
Yep.
About 10 years ago?
Yeah, this is 10 years.
And I remember that. I remember when it's wild, like from the beginning when 2005, I think Carey was drafted.
Yep.
And then he was still playing in Hamilton and he won the Calder Cup there. And then you came into the picture. I want to talk about that. So you're going back to Kelowna because BC is special. He's from Anaheim Lake.
Yep.
You're from the Tri-Cities area. He played for the Tri-Cities Americans.
Correct.
And so that's where you guys met.
Yep.
How did that start? I'm curious about, because you never get asked these questions, and I want to know, not that I'm TMZ or Gossip Frank or anything like that, but I want to know how it happened for you guys.
I'm kind of embarrassed about this story because I'm from Tri-Cities. There's the Tri-City Americans there. And I had probably about 4 girlfriends in high school who dated the hockey players. I made fun of them so much, called them hockey pucks. They tried to get us to go to the games. I'm not going to the game. I'm not.
You were against it.
You're
like, I'm not marrying a hockey player.
Against it.
Yeah. You were like, this is tacky.
Yeah.
You were too cool for that.
Yeah. I thought so. And then I went off to college with one of my girlfriends who was dating a hockey player, always trying to get me to go back. It's about a 2-hour drive from where I went to university back to Tri-Cities. Always trying to get me to go home with her to go to the hockey game because she had no one else to go with. Everyone else had broken up by that point. I'm again against it, but my boyfriend was back home at the time, so I'd go with her, but never go to the games. Fast forward a few months into college, I'm on the phone breaking up with my boyfriend on the patio, and her name's Lauren, peeks out. She's like, when you get done, wrap it up because there's a guy I'm talking to on MSN Messenger who wants to talk to you.
MSN Messenger. Wow. That's amazing.
So we finish breaking up. I go in and get on MSN Messenger and it's Carey. We start talking and I started going to hockey games and became everything.
You had no idea who he was?
No idea. So the first hockey game we went home that weekend to go to the game and then we were going to meet for dinner after. And he lets in a bunch of goals, gets pulled. You couldn't tell me that doesn't happen every night. I have no idea.
This must happen all the time.
I was really oblivious. It's embarrassing. And then that kind of went off and on. We kind of talked and started dating. And I really had no idea until, it was funny, I was getting my nails done at a nail salon. They have the TV going. And they talk about like a top prospect, Carey Price. I'm like,
that's my boyfriend.
Yeah, I'm like, hey. And then I remember going home and telling my mom, like, oh, I think Carey's kind of like a big deal with hockey. She's like, oh, they all think that. I'm like, no, like I think
he's special.
Yeah. And I probably still to this day don't comprehend him and his career. I probably, as someone who doesn't know hockey, didn't grow up with hockey, when he got drafted, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know what 5th overall, like, I mean, I like sports, but I didn't follow it to that detail where I know that that's a big deal. So it's kind of embarrassing, but I think that's probably a lot of the reason we worked out and kind of set the tone for my role within his life and his career, I think.
Yeah. And I think that makes you even more, and I don't mean this in a negative way, want to separate also yourself and your career from him.
Right.
Because we were talking about this earlier when you first arrived here on the couch, how sometimes you never want to be known, and my wife went through this in a very smaller way. It's like, oh, it's always, I'm Frank's wife.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not. I'm more than that, right? But people might treat you differently, and then, oh, wait a minute, that's Carey's wife.
Yeah.
Now they start treating you differently. So did you make more of a conscious effort to realize at that point that for you to do what you wanted to accomplish in life and your goals, you had to, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like say, hey, no, I'm my own person here. Yeah, he's my husband, but I didn't even know he was a hockey player. All right, that's his business. But
Yeah.
I have my own shit to deal with.
I don't think it was as calculated as it probably comes off. I think I was always like really work oriented, always a hard worker. I went to university, then had a job. I thought I was starting my career. I mean, Carrie had a lot of off and on, so we got back together, and he's like, you got to move to Montreal if we're going to make this work. So I moved to Montreal, and for the first time in my life, it's a blank slate. So I'm not working. He's helping me financially. I don't have to stress about that, which sounds wonderful. And it was. I read books. I've read every book on his bookshelf. I just discovered the city, had fun, but that was fun for 4 months.
Yeah.
And then I really started to dislike my time here in Montreal. I think my bags were packed about every week. I was kind of leaning on the other wives and girlfriends on the team, and I found that a lot of them take their husband's career and make it their dream, and they kind of have a partnership within their husband or their boyfriend in their hockey career. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of looked towards that, but in all honesty, that wasn't even an option for me. Carrie didn't need his dream to be my dream. If anything, I think his dad is his partner in his hockey career. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of what am I going to do then? And I needed something to ground me. I needed something. That's when I was like, okay, I have to find something. I can't just not work all day. And we got a dog, and that was good for a month. And
yeah.
So then I was like, well, what are things I've always wanted to do? So I found Concordia University. They have a continuing education program, and I did their photography and their graphic design and got into coding. And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Nice. I think I discovered a creative side of me that I didn't know was there. And then through that started blogging to take those skills and to keep my family back home, friends back home, up to date on what's going on in Montreal, kind of my life here. And then from that, Hockey Wives came, which is the reality show docuseries I did. Yeah,
right?
Season 2.
The second season.
Yeah. And from that, I started a public Instagram. And then from that, the Canadians reached out to me and was like, oh, will you design some items for our kids club? Sure. Designed some socks and bibs. Fun. Came back to me and Julie the next season's our women.
Julie
Petrie. Our women's line is really slacking in sales compared to our men's. Can you guys design a couple pieces and really help us try to build up those sales? And I think they were hoping we would just take some items and put our name on it and give them free publicity. But I think little did they know, me and Julie walk in with this whole plan. We're picky on the fabric, the fit, and the photos used to market this. And
you weren't messing around.
No,
You're like, we're business people.
I don't think they were expecting that. But we did it, and it went amazing. And fast forward to a couple years later, we had a men's, women's, and children's line that was just blowing up and that's where really
line change started.
Yeah.
You never thought that you were going to stick to, let's say, the hockey theme or in the hockey world. No. It just happened like that. But you are I don't know if this is even a bad word, fashionista.
Yeah.
You are somebody that you're posting. My wife follows you. Yeah. So many people that are even non-hockey fans follow you to see what you're going to post next because you get it. Yeah. And you have fashion sense.
I love clothes. So that was when they asked us to design a piece. I'm like, oh, I've been dreaming of this day. Let me tell you everything you're doing wrong and how I do it. But yeah, so during this time with Julie that we are essentially living the dream in Montreal. You're there with your best friend. You have found a passion project you love. But with anyone in the hockey world, you start thinking, well, one of us is going to get traded. It has to happen. We can't continue this forever.
You lasted pretty long.
I mean, we're very lucky with how long we lasted. Yeah. It was really a dream. So we started having the conversations with the marketing department with the Canadians about what do we do when one of us gets traded? Do the other continue? Do we just say, oh, it's over, all that work for nothing? Me and Julie really felt strongly that was both of us together within the design and our promotion of it. That was the success behind it. So as we're having this conversation, we're getting messages from wives across the league and fans across the league saying, hey, can you make these items for our teams? And there's a lot of logistics and politics that go behind using
trademarks
logos. Yeah. So we're like, oh, can we? And we hooed and hawed about it for about a year and a half until finally, I remember sitting on Julie's couch, and I even still have the notebook I was writing on, we're doing it. And that's when we decided, okay, let's go, let's do this. And then 4 months into it, COVID hit.
And the world changed.
Yeah. And we kept going because it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So, I mean, we're going to be back in Montreal in no time, right?
I'm glad she mentioned it before me. I wasn't going to talk about any of this stuff. Keep talking about line change. We might rewind. It did change, though. As a business owner, and you were both partners in your business, this was
huge.
Of course. What do we do now?
So, I mean, things were in motion. So we're like, I guess we keep going. Like, who knows when the world's going to come back and we're going to be back in the rinks. So we start contacting teams because that's how we do it. We go in through wholesale, and teams have to agree to pick up our line. And everyone's saying, oh, we had no fans. We don't know when we're going to have fans again. Like, our stock's full. Luckily, we had a handful of teams kind of see the vision and take a risk on us. And COVID actually ended up being so good for line change. I heard this analogy the other day, and it really spoke to me. So, like, Fanatics, Adidas, Reeboks, think of them as like these big cargo ships on the ocean. Like, they're massive. No one's taking them down. You're not going to compete with them. But we're this like little tiny speedboat, like chugging along. What's good about us is something like COVID comes up, we can change courses. We can pivot in a way that the big cargo ships can't. And we took advantage of that. And I think we ended up filling a need filling a need that the teams had that we didn't realize, and I don't think the teams realized they needed that. And so that's today kind of how the blueprint of our company, we're filling that need that these big companies can't do. And I think COVID is a big reason of behind the success of line change so far.
And what I like about line change, even though I still didn't get a shirt, I guess I got to just told Julie I got to buy them. Okay, yeah, no problem. I guess I'll purchase it. I'll wear it during the podcast.
We're mostly women's.
I'm not cheap. I'll pay. No, you have unisex,
we
right?
We have unisex.
Yeah. No, because I see Carrie wearing it. And what I like, it's so embarrassing. That's the Italian in me speaking.
So
where's my hoodie?
And that's I do these things and I always forget to bring swag. I'm the worst.
No, what I was going to say is what I like about line change is it's different. You know, you're not necessarily the product. Let's say you go into the Hab store, Tricolor or whatever, which I think sells your stuff.
Yep.
Your stuff stands out. It's not the typical. I'm not just saying this also to get you, just for the hell of saying it. I mean it. It's just cool wear. That's
the point of line change. It's like
it's not in your face like that. The logo is there. Like we know what the logo is. Yours is not about that.
Yeah, we want something as women when we were going in the team stores. We're gravitating towards just like the kind of washed out men's shirts. Yeah. That's what we'd buy, and we wanted something we can wear to the game, but then wear to the bar after.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I don't want to wear a jersey to the bar and be like a super fan. I just want something understated, cool, represents your team.
And and that's the thing is, as you get older and as you learn things in life, you realize being a fan sometimes I'm not putting down fans, but it's cooler to be a little inconspicuous and a little, I'm a fan, but I'm not like, I'm wearing the cap and the jersey and the socks and everything is the team, right? And you want to be a fan, but you don't want to be fanatical. And I find that your stuff is very unobtrusive. It's kind of there, and it's cool.
I mean, it's like the stuff that, like you said, like Carrie wants to wear as like a player. Like he doesn't want to walk around with like a jersey either.
Exactly.
Like understated, cool, but really comfortable. Like the fabrics and stuff mean a ton to us. And you're on, so now you're 19 teams? We're in 19 teams for this 2023 year. We're growing. We'll have a fun announcement of our line change in a couple weeks.
I know what it is, but I can't say it. This is huge. Can I say it's huge?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And especially.
And I'll just leave it at that.
It's very exciting.
It's massive. When you told me the first thing I asked Angela is, "Can we mention it on the podcast?" She was like, "No, I'm going to mention it on my Instagram live with Julie." And I thought, okay, that's a good point. What I also wanted to tell you, and is from the start. And it's, I think, the reason why you connect with women as well that are not even fans of hockey and follow you for your influence, even though, as I said, I hate the word influencer, but is because you're real. You're willing to put yourself out there, whether it's for line change, whether it's your other opinions. And your husband is very much that way. You're not afraid to speak at the right time. It's not like you're always there every single week saying something. When you say, you make a big statement. You're not afraid to make those statements. Have you always been this way? I take you as you're a very strong person, strong-willed, strong-minded person. But did something change? Did Montreal change you? Did Quebec change you that made you a bit like, no, you know what? I'm Angela Price, and I'm going to tell you what I think today and right now, and too bad if you don't like it.
I think I've changed a bit. I've always been very curious. I really love that in me, actually. I've never been... actually, our coworker in a meeting said this about me and Julie the other day, that we're not know-it-alls, we're learn-it-alls.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just curious. I always want to ask questions. And then when you get to a subject where people are like, no, you can't ask those questions, that really we definitely need to ask these questions then. Mm-hmm. And I think, to be honest, a lot of my younger adult life, I was surrounded by people who agreed with me, had the same opinion of me or as me. And then I come to a place like Quebec where I feel maybe a little more like a black sheep here in my views. And it took a minute for me to find my voice, I think. And I think it took a lot of being comfortable in my own skin and really understanding better. Okay, I hear another analogy. I heard this, that when people pick up their phones to watch me on Instagram, the first thing you see when you pick up your phone is your reflection of yourself. And then through that, you're watching what I'm doing and creating your judgments and stuff. And I've come to really learn that and understand that, yes, they are viewing me, but with their own filter that's making them think maybe different things. And I think that really sticks out to me too, because I was in turn be able to see that in myself. Like if I'm pulling up someone on social media who, she bugs me. Why does she bug me? Because I think she's like smarter than me or prettier than me. It's my own insecurities.
It's our own insecurities.
Yeah.
For
so
sure,
that's, I had to accept and acknowledge and not just say it, but feel it, that's people who are criticizing me. They're experiencing that. Mm-hmm. And so I think when I fully understood that, that's when I felt more confident to speak up. And I'm never like, this is how I think, this is how you should think. I'm always like, this is interesting, or this is something I like that I'm supporting. I am mentally very flexible, I like to say. I think it's great that we all think differently. I mean, that's how we get better. Like, how shitty would it be if we all thought the same thing and no one would get any better? Nothing would get any better. I think it's awesome when people question things. And at the end of the day, I like talking about clothes. I like talking about the hockey life, but it's a little more fulfilling to talk about more important things once in a while. And I don't want to stand up on my soapbox every day. And a lot of people, when I get a little more political or really stuck on a certain point, they're like, well, I still like you. People are great. They're like, I still like you, but I need to unfollow. I'm like, I totally get it. Like sometimes it's too much and I have to unfollow. I don't watch the news for a reason. Like I need to unplug from that. So a lot of people are really respectful. Some people aren't. But I found that now that I'm really more comfortable with myself and my idea of where other people are coming from, I feel confident speaking up a little more. Sorry, I went on a tangent there.
No, not at all. I love the fact you speak.
Yeah.
And not everybody likes to speak. Meaning some people are more, they hold back. And I like the fact that I think you're comfortable and we could talk about anything. So what advice would you have then to, as you depart for Kelowna, but even though your husband is still part of the organization, still has 3 years on his contract and all that, any advice you have for up and coming spouses and partners for how to handle Montreal and how to handle Quebec? And there's this very unique part of the country, especially in the hockey world.
Yeah. And
if they do want to branch out and do their own thing, which they should, like you did, any advice?
So we have a group message for all the wives and girlfriends with just like daily stuff. Oh, like we're going to go grab a drink. Do you want to come, or this and that? And I had left that message, but before I left, I had sent my a goodbye with all my advice from my experience, and I should have saved that.
What, you would have read it?
But I felt at the end, thinking that maybe this is the end, looking back, it's funny about maybe like the things I'm gonna miss, like the special treatment we got sometimes was fantastic. Like, go meet that. I feel like we were coddled here. There's just so many things where your brain goes, but I keep going back to like, did I do enough? Did I treat the people at the rink kindly? I mean, the people at the rink are amazing. Like, from the first day I showed up, like my maiden day, like, hi, Miss Weber. Like, that's like the thing that's replaying in my mind, and that's what I told the girls. I'm like, it seems so insignificant. You think maybe you're going to be here for 3 years, and then next thing you know, you're here for 15. You never know. And if you go in with an open mind, there's going to be opportunities that arise from being in this world. That's the luxury of it, and to take advantage of that. And I think I held back maybe a little bit in the beginning, because when you're married to someone, or a boyfriend or girlfriend to someone who is succeeding at such a high level, it's really easy to feel insignificant in everything you do, which is too bad. And it shouldn't be that way, but I think it's human nature maybe to feel like that. So my advice was to put that aside. And even for me, I mean, with my blog, I get to a point where I'm like making 6 figures. Like, in any other setting that's like hugely successful, I should be super
huge.
proud.
Yeah.
But it still felt very insignificant. I felt like I still couldn't get like help with the kids. Like, it should still be my responsibility, even though I want to spend more time doing this. Like, it's still like being stuck in a role that I think maybe not society, but this hockey world kind of wants to put you in.
Yeah.
Not being scared to step out of that, I guess.
Episode 118 of the Drive-By Podcast is sponsored by Playground. Experience their world-renowned poker room with free food and drinks at their cash game tables, a bad beat jackpot that is well over $1.8 million and could crack at any point. Weekly promotions and daily tournaments, unmatched customer service. Why play anywhere else? The premier location for poker in North America. Located just over the Mercier Bridge and only minutes from downtown Montreal. It's Playground. In Italian, we say it's pesante, which means it's heavy. This hockey world, it really is.
It is.
And I changed my perspective on how I see hockey families and hockey players, athletes in general, from my years of, being on the radio and meeting a lot of these players and hanging out with them, from how I used to think in the past, and how it was easy to just get on Twitter and make a comment and shit on not necessarily shit on your favorite player, but, say, it's easy to be an armchair general manager.
Absolutely.
But once you meet them and you realize, and you start meeting the families, and you start meeting, which I had the privilege of doing, and became friends with several of them, and you start to realize that they're just people, like, we're just people trying to get through this thing called life. Let's go crazy. It's a Prince song. And that's what people don't understand. At the end of the day, you're Angela first, and he's Carrie first. And everything else that comes with it is really secondary for you guys. Your family is first.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And people need, I think, hopefully, the more people see this kind of stuff, they start to realize you're only human. But it's hard to take those lenses and remove them, right? Because people see you through those lenses.
I feel like a lot of time it's not okay for me to have a bad day, to be struggling, to have any problems. Like, if you have a problem, you're just a complainer. Look how lucky you are.
Yeah. Because it always comes back down to that, right? It's always
everyone brings it back to money. And I understand. I mean, I remember at 16, I thought if I had my Jeep Wrangler and a boyfriend, like, life's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And then you get those things and you're like, okay, like, I had no idea what I was thinking.
Exactly. And then you're at a point where you're comfortable in life, and then you realize, you still have bad days.
Oh my gosh,
you still have tough times, and money doesn't change. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is really money. The people I know who are the richest people are just as miserable as I am some days, right? It doesn't really matter.
It's funny. I forget who put out a study, and they were talking about can money buy happiness, and it was like around the $500,000 mark was like perfect. Any more than that, you're just like taking away your happiness. Under that, you're taking your happiness away too. It's interesting. I mean, people will fight that till the day they die, I think, unless you experience it. I guess you never can.
You have to experience it for sure. But it's nice to see down to earth people that are in the public eye, that you can, as I said, as you get older, you start to figure out these people they're just like me. They're just like you and I. And that's what people need to understand at the end of the day. So you've spent over a decade. How many years here?
I've been here 13 years, I think.
Didn't I hear you the other day on your Instagram, because it caught me off guard, speaking French? Like you speak, or were you...
That was our nanny.
That was your nanny?
Yeah.
It sounded like you.
I tagged her. I know, even my nanny was like, oh, your French is so good. I'm like, that's you.
Because I heard you and I was like, it was pure Quebecois too, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? She learned how to speak French. Did you learn a little?
I did.
It's tough. It's not an easy...
It's so embarrassing to speak it. Even Carrie makes fun of me.
Okay.
And at the beginning you're learning, you go to Tim Hortons, they switch to English like that. No one wants to hear my bad French.
Right. Okay, so it wasn't you.
No,
because I was like, wow, she got really good.
I wish.
It's tough, especially when you're
It was tough, and I really put in a solid effort when we first came. I took courses at Concordia, one of the things I was filling my days with. And then, but no one will speak it with me. No one in my circle was French. It just became not fun, and then you kind of get like a bitter taste about it, and I just like... And even fans to this day, like, will write me and be like, I just love you and Carrie, but it just irks me that you never learned French. I'm like, that kind of sucks that you're carrying that around with you.
Yeah, let the grudge go.
Yeah.
No, and sometimes it happens. My wife's from Alberta, and I was born and raised here. So we met, in Toronto and then out west. And she's tried to learn how to speak it too. And sometimes she feels inferior as well. And I say, it's tough to learn a language. Once you're in your 20s, it's over. It's really tough in this language. And I imagine I was born and raised here, even though I was out of the province for 18 years. I still struggle with the grammar. Sometimes I do live events and I'm doing it in French and my grammar's wrong, and someone will come up to me and say, you should have said vous instead of tu, right? But so it catches you off guard, but you try at least.
We tried. And we're teaching our kids.
Yeah, your kids must.
Yeah.
They're learning.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So here in Quebec, you get, so having lived in BC, you're going to Kelowna. I understand the British Columbian mindset. Alberta, very different mindset. Ontario, lived in Toronto, different mindset. Quebec, different mindset. When you look at your time here in Quebec, you've pros and cons, straight up. Great things about Quebec that you're going to miss, and then things that you put it on a shelf somewhere and it's like, I'll never revisit that again. What comes to mind first? In terms of things, let's start with the positive. Things that you're really going to miss. I would imagine like restaurants and joie de vivre.
Going back to Kelowna and going out to dinner is painful. It is miserable.
Milestones, Cactus Club, all the generic. Sorry.
I mean, I love Kelowna, obviously, but they don't even, nowhere compares to Montreal.
No.
And the food here is the absolute best.
You had a look of disgust when you said that in a way, like you're not ready for that part.
I'm not.
No, but are you're a decent cook? Good cook?
Yeah, definitely a cook. I mean, we go out to dinner once a week, so it's not like a huge adjustment, but it's painful in Kelowna. And just the feeling of home that Montreal has had. If you would have asked me 15 years ago if you enjoyed living in the suburbs, I would have hell no. That's the worst place that I would ever, no. Now, to leave our neighborhood, we live in the beautiful cul-de-sac. We're such good friends with our neighbors. We meet for dinner, glasses of wine. We go to their cottage. Our kids all play together. It is out of a movie. And to leave that is so heartbreaking. I mean, if you're going to play hockey, is there a better city than Montreal? No. What else?
This was a dream. It really was.
It was.
For not only your husband, but for your family.
Oh my
having
gosh.
This opportunity.
Our kids, we raised our kids here. The organization was amazing. It felt like family most of the time. Yep. We just went all to the practice rink with Carrie with the kids on Sunday morning, and it's just those little things you're really gonna miss. And that's the thing Carrie said, he's we'll really miss just going to the rink every day. Just been your routine for 20 years.
Yeah.
What else?
You consider yourself, obviously, you'll always consider yourself a Montrealer.
Yeah.
Because you spend most of your life here.
All of my adult life here. And like I said, had our kids, raised our family here, and it's home. And I think we were here when the social media first came about. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, that really built community in Montreal for me. That was a beautiful thing that came out of social media for me, is feeling part of this community of Montreal, which I don't have that. I don't have that following in Kelowna or even in my hometown. And that, I don't know, I think you always hear that too, going back to happiness, like community is the number one thing towards your happiness. And so to leave this community it makes me really nervous, and I'm really sad to leave it.
Does it also make you a little nervous because of your business and your career and the stuff that you might be promoting and talking about on your IG, your social media platforms, and then now going to Kelowna? I mean, you're in Kelowna, and it'll open up to a whole bunch of more people, but your how do you say, your demos here?
It is here.
Yeah.
Like it is. It's crazy.
Everyone's here.
And it makes me worried, even with Line Change too. Being a hockey wife is like part of my identity within that business. Carrie has 3 years left on his contract after that. Like, it's in the back of your mind. Like, will I still resonate with people? Will people still care? You hope that you're building brands enough that it will withstand that, and I think it will, but it's definitely a little insecurity in the back, like, oh, people have loved me because I'm Carey Price's wife, when Carey's not.
Some people.
Yeah, and when he's not the starting goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens anymore, is there going to be a shift?
It's possible.
Yeah.
But you'll have a lot more.
For some people, absolutely.
But you'll have a lot more people in your demographic, like my wife, for example, who couldn't give. This is not an insult towards hockey. Like, she doesn't care. She pretends she's the fake fan. The Habs are in the Stanley Cup. All of a sudden, she's wearing a Habs jersey, and then Calgary's doing well, and she has a Calgary jersey because she's from Calgary. And I'm like, what are you doing? You don't even make sense anymore. So I mean, look, I hear it all the time. At least once every couple of weeks is I got a new suitcase. And I'm like, okay. She goes, it was a little expensive. I was like, oh, where did you see it? Where did you get it? It was, Angela Price was talking about it. She doesn't even call you Angela Price. You're Angela. Angela saw it. Oh, yeah. How much? For one suitcase was that much? Like, it was
it was a good one.
It was a great one.
Carey has taken it now.
He's taken it because I saw you filling it up. And so I'm going to take it too when I head on my
so I'm back with the kids' a suitcase. So I got to buy myself a new one.
But look, stuff like that, for example,
and
hopefully that company, which I don't know from a hole in the wall, by the way, because I follow, but I don't remember certain things. I'm a guy's guy.
Yeah,
that's the way.
You're not.
It's not for me. I grab it. I'm not your target audience. Okay, so but I see it there, and then my wife's like, "You'll see. Look, she's packing Carey's." I was like, okay, so I guess it's gonna be good for when I pack my guy's trip, right? But see, I think you have a lot more of those people, those types of followers that, some will care, but most of them don't care.
I try to be conscious of that.
I think you built that.
Yeah, I don't fill my feed full of hockey. Like, it's not.
You don't?
No. So, no. I mean, I'll give you peeks of our lives, and Carey's involved with that sometimes, but I try not to make that the focus to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay, I have to mention this because it's something that I find after this happened that I had more of a connection with you.
Okay.
And it's not important. The background of this is not important as much as what happened and what was said. And like, she's getting nervous now. What the hell is he talking about? But it was the moment I realized that I needed to say something as somebody who was formerly in the media, mainstream media for 30 years. And I had to stand up for you and Julie. And I think you know what I'm going to say. There was a time that you came out and you said certain things about what we had gone through in the last 3 years. Okay. Doesn't matter. I don't have to get into the specifics of it. And then there was a specific writer for the Montreal Gazette that I personally don't like because I think he's a very cruel. No, I can't stand him. And the word that was used, okay, because I want to hear how it made you feel, obviously, when you heard it, because it bothered me.
Yeah.
And I know I have a very strong, three strong women, my sister, my mom, my wife in my life. When a writer on a mainstream paper says they need to get muzzled, I think that was the word, right?
Muzzled.
The term muzzled. You and Julie for saying what you were saying, what you were standing up for. I would look at that as one of the, not the lowest points, but a moment in your time here where you thought to yourself, what's going on? Like, did you feel after, did you question what you said after he said that?
I will, in a tiny bit of his defense, just say he said, I'm not saying Angela and Julie should be muzzled, but with that, you're fucking saying we should be muzzled.
Yeah. But it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Something like that, along those lines.
I mean, I remember, and again, the Gazette's printing it or posting it. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's not just him as well. But I remember seeing that and just, it felt like tunnel vision, seeing the word muzzled, and just felt like, you can't say that about a woman these days. Like, I just felt like we went back 50 years. It was one of probably the most hurtful things I have read about myself in Montreal. And reflecting on it now, I have a very different mindset, but at the time, I was just in shock, I think. And that not only it was said, but a paper thought that was good to post or print, and then people were just okay with that. Like, reading it, like, you spoke up, which was very nice, but I would have thought more people would have been outraged by it. But at the same time, does what it does when it just fueled my fire. And it really, I think that was a time that I really dug deep in why people say the things they do. Is he just a shitty person? And I got a lot of growth out of that, actually. That specific line in that article. And today I can say, and especially that specific person is a repeat offender and things like this. But
yeah,
and not just him. There's other people.
There's other people. Yeah.
You get. I chalk it up to three things. One, are they a narcissist where they can't comprehend that someone else has an intelligent opinion that doesn't go along with their opinion? Two, the age-old saying of hurt people. Like, is there something deeper, which is sad? Or three, are they just so desperate for attention? Through Carrie's career, and even towards me, because of my connection with Carrie, people will take something we say and twist it to make it the most controversial that they can make it, and then they hitch their wagon to it to get attention. And at the end of the day, I hate to say this, but I do feel bad for them. And I don't say that to make me feel like I'm the bigger person, but that's living in that negative headspace is probably really sad. And to be honest, it's probably a combo of all three of those things that make these people say the things they do. And obviously, I think attention is one of the main things. I had a mom blogger or something. I got on social media. She had tagged me in something, speaking French, so I wasn't following, but could understand she was talking shit. So I just block, which I do. I don't like to hold on to negativity as much as I do kind of feed off of it. I do block, really easy to block. And then people in my world kept saying, oh, this person's saying this about you, about how you're a bad mom and all this. I'm like, wow, she really thinks this. Like, she's probably trying to, like, directly reach out to me to have a conversation. She's concerned. So I went and unfollow, expecting a message being like, we should talk about this. Like, I'm really passionate about this. But no message. They're not trying to reach out to me. They're just putting on Instagram to get attention. And so it takes those moments for me to realize, like, I mean, that's really sad. Like, you want to throw character and decency out the window. Like, no one with integrity is going to try to wage a war against you on social media when they don't even know you. Like, no kind person's going to do that. So it's sad. It is. And I feel like maybe 10 years ago I'd say that to be like, oh, the better person, but I refrain from saying negative things about them because I do feel like they're probably in a bad place to live their lives like that.
It must be frustrating sometimes when that kind of stuff is said and you hear things because you're high profile, you're in the public eye, and you just want to kind of reach out there and just say, no, hang on, everybody.
Yeah.
First of all, mind your own business. It's not your business. But it must, at a very much lower degree, I went through something similar when I lost my gig in radio. And it was in the paper, same type of thing. People made up a whole bunch of bullshit and things about me and my co-host and whatever that. And I was like, what are they talking about? This is insanity. So you realize that you can't control what other people think of you.
No, it goes back to they're viewing you through their own
lens.
Their own issues.
Yeah. So the best way you could handle it is just to turn everything off and basically live your life. And
that's what I try. I try not to respond to it. That's just going to give them more attention. It gets hard sometimes, but
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it that it's probably one of the most difficult things of being somebody in the public eye, especially, as I said, I called you not because you really are the first hockey family of Montreal. You are. I mean, this is the last 13, 14 years. So you were wearing goggles the other day. Remember those goggles that you had on? Yes. She had these goggles with these weird, she wears these shoes with their, shoes, what are those called? Toe shoes.
Yeah. Right? Go around each individual toe.
Yeah, exactly. They go around and she was saying, I don't know how my husband still loves me after I wear these things. And I wrote back to Angela and said, he wears Crocs.
Yeah.
He wears Crocs.
No room to talk.
But those goggles, let's take those goggles, is a lot of people see you, I think you mentioned it before, through a lens that is not real. Hopefully, when they see you sitting down, on a podcast like this, where you're able to be, I'm not saying it because it's my podcast, I feel speaking to you here today, you're just, that's who you are. You're raw, you're real, you're authentic. There's no bullshit that comes with it. People hopefully will see that. Yeah. That you're just regular people for the fifth time. And that must be something that, in a way, you'll probably like to leave in the past. Now that you're moving into, you're going across the country, that's not something you're not going to miss. No, especially Carrie. He put himself in that kind of a situation recently too. Yeah, big situation. Yeah, and I think, though he stood for what he said and was very passionate about it, and I very much agree that he was in the right. Me too. It's hard. It's hard, and I think he said that during that. He's like, wow, I feel like I didn't maybe support you enough during all your ups and downs here. I'm like, no, I didn't need it. I'm fine. He is very different. That really upset him, and that is definitely, when going back to the pros and cons of living here, that is definitely one of the cons that we will leave here. Yep. One of the things you'll leave behind. I'm just curious, since you brought it up, and that was a big statement he made and everything. By the way, I loved it. And the fact he tagged the Prime Minister of Canada, I was like, yes! I mean, how amazing. That was amazing. To know that you can put that out and know that the Prime Minister saw that. He did. Well, he's a Montreal Canadiens fan. I mean, he's been a supporter of Carrie in the past, which is great, but this was above and beyond. Above and beyond. Yeah. I'm curious, did he ever reach out to you guys? Did he ever... The Prime Minister? Yeah, was anything ever said? Because nothing was talked about in the media after. No. He never did. No. But a lot of other politicians had brought him up, and I mean, I understand when people who are opposed get so pissed, because if someone of that influence was speaking up against something I disagreed with, I'd be pissed too. Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of it, and this is what you mentioned earlier. We're allowed to have our own thoughts and opinions. No? I know. We did prior to 2020. Now you can't. Now you have to follow the narrative. Does that scare you, especially with 3 kids and being the top, by the way, congratulations, #1 mom blogger in Montreal? I saw that, and having that influence that you have, but you're a mom blogger, seeing where the world is going. Are you does it scare you? Are you happy in a way you're moving to Kelowna? Terrifying. Because hopefully... I'm pulling up a quote. Yeah. Oh, you're pulling up a quote. I was like, who is she ready to? No, I'm pulling up a quote. I don't know if I have it anymore. It is terrifying. It was a quote, something like, if you don't stand up for your children now, you're going to leave a world where your children can't stand up. And I definitely think that's the direction we're going. If you have an opinion that is against what the mainstream is telling you to think or say or do, you're done. Then not even if you're in the middle. It's if you're not for us, you're against us. Yep. It is a one-track mindset, and that is terrifying. When we can't question things, when we can't have conversations,
that is not going to lead to us getting any better. It's very scary.
But we never, I felt like in the past, go back 10, even 5, 10, 15 years ago, that there were people on both sides of the fence with their opinions. And I just felt like you could have that conversation. But then at some point, it became so polarizing that you're right. Exactly what you just said. You're either with us or against us. And then it's the threat of cancellation, right?
I hate that.
Yeah, exactly. We've all gone through that. You've gone through that. And then even your husband, you mentioned, when he stood up for himself and what he truly believes in, and he made that post, to me, and any person seeing that with any decency and common sense.
That's the thing. Common sense goes out the window.
What's the common sense? Like, what did he say? Without getting into it, because it's irrelevant.
No.
But what did he say? So it makes total sense what he said.
And that's what made me, again, one more thing that makes me feel comfortable about speaking up is me or my husband, we don't just speak up on things we're not educated on. I'm not talking about anything controversial unless I'm as educated
Passionate,
as I can
and
be.
You know what you're talking about, yeah.
And people who respond to criticize, they don't know what they're talking about. They're so uneducated. Even the person we were speaking of earlier came against Kerry. He was wrong. Like, he didn't even know what was in the amendment. Like, people are just it's scary what they're
really
told.
is.
They go with that, and that's the party line that they stick with, even though they have no idea what backs that, the research behind it, the studies behind it, the actual documentation that states what's in it. Like, they don't even read it.
No, they don't know the history behind it. They don't know why we're here today because of things that happened in the past.
Oh my gosh, and with Kerry going against treaty rights, please,
it's a really scary time. But
it is.
Anyway, besides all that, it's a scary time.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe you'll come on the podcast again next time you come to what does that mean? You changed your mind? No, I hope you come on again, and we'll talk about other things as well. But okay, so a few more things before we say goodbye.
Okay.
Goodbye, Angela. What are you going to miss the most? The number one thing. So let's say look back at first of all, what's the most magical moment from all your years here in Montreal?
I think it's probably everyone else's magical moment is when we went to the finals.
That was amazing.
That game where we beat Vegas in that overtime goal is just seared as my time in Montreal.
That was amazing.
Yeah. And
what are you going to miss the most? The number one thing you'll miss the most? The first thing that comes to mind?
Community, I'm saying our neighborhood. Like I said, it's like we live in a movie in our neighborhood, and just that, I think that's when my happiness went up a notch, is when I really felt like the community within our neighborhood, and it makes a big difference. And when you have kids and see that they have that community too.
I'm so happy you came by, the drive-by, and you waited for me to have it here at this new studio, and not
Which is awesome.
I'm coming to your house, Frank. But that would have been closer because I live 10 minutes away from you.
Luckily,
by the way,
I'm down here for school pickup.
Yes.
Anyways.
Oh yeah. Don't forget to pick up your child today. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wish you the best in your next chapter of life in Kelowna, and keep in touch on Instagram. And I wish you and Carrie the best and the kids. And thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks for watching and for listening to episode 118 of the Drive By Podcast, sponsored by Playground. Open 24/7. Drinks always available and free while you play, with over 600 machines, daily promotions, including our Walk of Fame, which is going on now every single Sunday, $15,000 in cash prizes, and a $5,000 grand prize, which we double on the finale nights on June 25th and July 2nd. That increases to $30,000 with a $10,000 grand prize. Located just over the Mercier Bridge and only minutes from downtown Montreal, it's Playground.
This is The Drive-By with Freeway Frank.
Watch all episodes of The Drive-By on YouTube. Listen in on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Podbean, and tune in.